GST, or Goods and Services Tax. For Malaysians, there are probably no more contentious three words except maybe crispy chicken rendang. It's amazing actually how much vitriol Malaysians seem to have towards GST. It doesn't matter who you ask, your Grab driver, your cousin, that uncle at the kopitiam, all of them seem to squarely blame GST as the reason why cost of living is so high. So it is no surprise that as we all get a little election crazy, that the opposition has made as one of its cornerstone promises to abolish GST within 100 days if they come into power. On the surface, it looks like a blessing. But you have to ask yourself, is it really? In a way, it's like if your parents promised to buy you a pony if you got good grades at school. Of course, in reality, it never happens because guess what, Mom? I am still waiting for my pony. But now that I think about it, it's a good thing that I never got that pony because your parents never really specified who was going to house and feed that four-legged poop machine. So the question here is, without GST, how exactly are we going to feed the pony? I have to be clear that this is not a criticism of the promise per se. I am not a politician after all, but rather a very genuine question. GST is expected to account for 18% of the government's revenue for this year, which is almost 44 billion ringgit, which is not a small amount, and it's not as if the government can pull a Russell Crowe divorce auction and sell their leather jockstrap to pay for it. By the way, that leather jockstrap sold for US 7,000. Add to that the promise to also wipe out PT-PTN loans, and suddenly you have 2 ponies to pay for. To be fair, the opposition is not expecting the money to fall from the sky. They have suggested to replace it with sales and services tax, which is what we had previously, a single-tier tax that is collected once rather than along the chain. However, that also carries some problems. Firstly, the gap between what the government collected using sales tax and GST is not small. In 2014, sales tax collection came to 17.2 billion ringgit, while in 2015, GST collection came to 35.3 billion ringgit. That is a gap of 18 billion ringgit. Or to put it in perspective, that is about 650,000 of Russell Crowe's leather groin protectors. Let's not forget that Malaysia has always spent more than she earns since 1998 and currently has 687 billion ringgit worth of debt on its books, which costs almost 31 billion ringgit to service. So we can ill afford any kind of shortfall. Never mind Russell Crowe, we aren't even Cardi B at this point.
Dance now, I make money move. Say I don't gotta dance, I make money move.
But the opposition also has another ace up its sleeve. It said that the cost savings will come from plugging the leakages and trimming the fat from the current system, which I am more than on board for. Yet, planning to do all that and get rid of a main source of income in just 100 days is more than a stretch. It would be like trying to clean a house that has had the same occupant for 60 years. And all of us have at least had one relative that hoards, right? Yeah, try to clean that times 10. So maybe rather than saying you want to get rid of GST completely, the right thing to do would be to fix what is already there, which is what Ideas Ali Saman actually suggested. He also pointed out that there were other reasons that prices have been going up, one of which is the weakening ringgit. Not as sexy a campaign slogan, but there you go. But I would go further and say that the whole system in general needs an overhaul. Businesses can get rebates, but they have been slow coming, which the opposition has actually pointed out. Businesses complain that there is no clarity when it comes to certain processes, with some claiming that when they call the hotline for help, nobody picks up. They also point out that branch customs officers are also inconsistent on their answers for GST. On the other side, the government also needs to crack down on unscrupulous idiots who raise prices using the guise of GST, who did it even before it was implemented. The truth is, given the state of how things are now, there is no way to live without GST. You may abolish it, but it will come back in another form, whether it is SST, VAT, LOL, or WTF. We should stop looking at GST as some kind of bogeyman, because as many tax experts have pointed out, it is a fair tax. It only taxes what you consume, and there are many on the zero GST list as well. Although that needs tweaking too, because why the hell is lobster GST free? But the current cost of living, it's no joke, and it is something that needs to be addressed no matter who ends up on top. It is an interesting paradox though, that while the method that the government collects money is actually quite focused, the method for distributing it is actually very broad-based. So maybe rather than just getting rid of the tax, a more detailed plan for divvying it out will be something that is more sound. However, it is hard to say what actually will sway voters at the polls. If things keep going on the way they are now, and it just gets harder for all of us to live, maybe we won't look a gift horse in the mouth. Just saying.